Okay, we're live. We have member Monroe, member Panday, member Allen, member Griffiths. Looks like Michael just popped in, and Superintendent Aronakis and Maria Ahern. Sorry, Maria, I forgot your title. And Barbara Wilmot and Lee Kissinger and who else? Connor Bendarzik, Daniela Kucher, and some other names I don't recognize. Robin Serio. So.
All right. We have a quorum. I'm going to bring the meeting to order. Open forum comments must be directed to the chairperson of the school committee, who may limit or terminate a discussion. No comment should address personnel, litigation, or negotiations as restricted by open meetings regulations. The school committee cannot take action or vote on topics introduced that are not reflected on the agenda. Does anybody have anything they'd like to mention in the open forum? Hearing none, I'd like to proceed to the consent agenda. Jim, could you please read the consent agenda?
Under consent, we have the approval of minutes from the June 9th meeting. That was a regular meeting. We have our first appointment of a new teacher for next year. This is to fill the other half of a job share, or the other portion of a job share that was approved by the school committee last month. We have 2 leaves of absence, a resignation for a athletic coach, and we have a list of recalls. These are individuals called back to positions that were vacated by retirement and leave of absence. We also have our monthly bills and several families that have submitted applications for homeschooling for next school year.
Very good. Does anybody want anything pulled from the consent agenda for discussion? All right, hearing none. Could somebody make a motion to accept the consent agenda as identified?
So moved. This was Donna.
Second.
I'll call the vote. Ms. Pandy?
Aye.
Ms. Allen?
Aye.
Mr. Pasillo?
Aye.
Mr. Monroe? Miss Monroe?
Aye.
Ms. Griffith?
Aye.
I believe John Holdeman is not here. He is absent. And I am an aye. Next on the agenda are correspondence. Does anybody want anything pulled and discussed under correspondences? All right, hearing none. Moving on, monthly subcommittee reports. Does anybody have any questions under policy subcommittee, capital project building committee, or technology committee? Nothing. Okay. All right, moving on under new business. Bob, net metering credit sales agreement amendment discussion action.
Yes, this is for the school committee members who are new and for the ones that have been around for a while. This was the virtual net metering credit agreement that we entered into with Green Development Corporation just about over a year ago. It was after an RFP was issued and a lot of going over the agreement and what that meant. A couple of school committee votes, eventually it passed, and we had a full agreement fully executed. This is just a, in the cover letter, you can see from Hannah Morini from Green. She's asking that we just extend the deadline until December of 21, which was the month they actually said we would start receiving the credits. It's just they want to make sure that it's reflected in the contract. I ran this by legal. There's really no adverse impact to the district other than we're just, the agreement now shows that we're actually waiting until the 21st when we should receive the credits. They have to build out the solar farm is basically the constraint right now.
Should we have any concerns, Bob?
Nope. This is, as far as the contract goes and as far as the agreement, everything is in place. So as we agreed to going back over a year ago.
Does anyone have any questions for Bob or comments?
Member Allen wishes to be recognized.
No, I don't have any comments. I was just going to make a motion to approve the request to amend the net metering credit sales agreement between Green Development as follows. Section 2.2 of the agreement. Early termination is hereby amended by changing if seller has not achieved the commercial operation date within 12 months after the effective date to if seller has not achieved the commercial operation date no later than December 31st, 2021.
Could somebody second that?
I'll second it.
Okay, I'll move the question. I'll call the vote. Member Pandy,
I'm going to abstain. I voted nay to entering into the agreement with Green Development LLC and therefore do not want to vote for or against any amendments.
sure. Member Allen,
Aye.
Member Pasillo,
Aye.
Member Monroe,
I'm going to abstain as well since I wasn't part of this original plan.
Member Griffith,
I also need to abstain because I've never seen the original contract and wasn't there for the initial vote. Thank you.
I'm aye for this. So the motion passes. Okay, next on the agenda, the
I don't think the motion
2021-2020.
passes.
It didn't. Did we not have 4? That's right, we did not.
I think it was 3-3, Paul.
That's right, it didn't pass. You are correct. All right, motion doesn't pass. Moving on. Bob, before we move on, what consequences do we have to live with now that this motion hasn't passed?
I don't know. I'll reach out to Green tomorrow morning and find out, let them know. I mean, we could always bring it back for further consideration, or I could provide agreements to everybody to see fully, but let's see if it's a distinction without a difference, if they're willing to live with it.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good. All right, next under new business, 2021-2022 athletic handbook review approval, discussion action. Jim, do you have anything to bring to this issue before the committee?
The handbook is in the agenda. There are no substantive changes to the handbook. This was reviewed by the athletic director, and he's not making any recommendation for changes for next year.
Okay.
Do any of the members have questions or comments? All right, hearing none. I need a motion to approve the 2021-2022 athletic handbook.
Member
So
Allen
moved.
wishes.
I'll make a motion to approve the 21-22 athletic handbook as
I'll second
presented.
that.
I'll second.
Do I have a second?
Yep, I will.
All right, I'll call the vote. see if I can count this time. Member Pandy,
Aye.
Member Allen,
Aye.
Member Pasillo,
Aye.
Member Monroe,
Aye.
Member Griffiths.
Aye.
I am an aye as well. Under new business, the 2021-2022 Coaches Handbook. Jim?
Same as the athletic handbook that the athletic director has reviewed, not making any recommendations for substantive changes, but it does need to go in front of the school committee each year for review.
Do any of the members have any questions or comments? Hearing none, I will move the motion. Will somebody make a motion at this time to move the question?
I so move.
Second?
Second.
I'll call the vote. Member Pandy,
Vice Chair McFadden, someone who should probably read the actual motion.
the motion for the 21-22 Coaches Handbook review approval to approve the 21-22 Coaches Handbook as presented. That's the motion on the floor.
I'm an aye.
Member Allen,
Aye.
Member Pasillo,
Aye.
Member Monroe,
Aye.
Member Griffiths,
Aye.
and I am an aye. Under new business, EWG Solicitor Chairman rulings, I asked for this to be put on the agenda. Does anyone wish to add any comments or on this matter at this time?
Can I ask a question of Andrew?
You most certainly can.
Thank you. Andrew, where does this fall on the level of joint and several liability for members should the counsel of, our legal counsel not be followed?
Oh, I think the question is, if I give you legal advice and you don't follow it, is there any individual liability? Is that the question?
Correct. So membership on a board, it's the board acting as a whole, but members are also sometimes chosen individually, as a group, right? It's a joint and several concept. Where does that fall within this? If, recommendations are not followed, just in general.
Yeah,
You
so
could,
in
please.
general,
I know I'm not giving a specific situation, but thank you.
It would really depend on the nature of the legal advice. I mean, if it's a procedural issue, elected officials generally, unless they're intentionally and willfully violating the law, have a level of protection. So, if I'm advising you something is, criminally illegal, let's just say, and you were to, as a member, were to go, definitively against that advice, could it potentially open up some kind of liability? Possibly. But in general terms, with respect to school committee business, it would have to be a unique situation for any kind of individual liability to attach.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else have any questions or comments on this matter?
I have a question.
Yep.
So my question is, so it says EWG Solicitor / Chairman rulings. Can you explain, Vice Chair McFadden, exactly what you want to discuss and what we'd be voting on?
Not at this time, no. Is there anything else? All right. Moving on. Item E, staff equity training. Alan, discussion.
Okay, I put this on here because I had learned a lot about the training that happened up in Providence that was directed by RIDE, really. And it made me nervous. What they had done with the training was they separated people. I heard this from a number of people who were in these meetings. And they separated all the white people into one group of teachers and everybody else into another group, and they were taught separately. I don't know why they did that, because they're all teachers and they should have been all together as far as I'm concerned. I didn't like that at all. The other thing that happened, we didn't have the curriculum that somehow got off the agenda, but I had heard various books in Providence. They took all the books in September and got rid of them. I don't know what they did with them. I think it was in the news at the time. And the teachers didn't get books until January. And some of the books I was really surprised about. It was Walt Whitman, Shakespeare, Martin Luther King, and the Diary of Anne Frank, to name 4 of them. And I thought this was ridiculous, because if you're teaching equality, you should be teaching, I know we had Anne Frank, and I know we used to teach the Diary of Anne Frank at our school. So I was just concerned about that also. And of course, Martin Luther King, why would you get rid of his stuff either? So I was concerned, and I just wanted to bring it to everyone's attention, what was going on in Providence and with RIDE and changing the curriculum. But the curriculum went off the agenda, so I guess I can't discuss that right now. And I just wondered if anyone had any comments on this.
Before we continue, Mr. McFadden, when someone is talking for an extended period of time, if you wouldn't mind muting your phone, because we end up hearing their voice echoing back through your connection, that would be really appreciated.
Was I a complete echo?
No, we could hear what you were saying,
Okay.
but there was some interference in the back, so it was a little tough.
Okay.
They're talking
So
about
I
me,
just
I think.
wanted to open it up for discussion.
Are you looking for a response from me, Mrs. Allen?
No, not really. I'm just wondering what anyone else thinks about that. Have we didn't really do that kind of training, I don't think. So I don't know if you have a response to it, I guess, but I don't think we had that happen to us. But I just wanted to warn people that it could be happening.
Well, I don't know what Providence did, but Providence is run by the Rhode Island Department of Education. So
Right.
I don't know that it's accurate to say that RIDE is directing districts to do any particular kinds of training or eliminate books or change curriculum or implement any kind of specific curriculum around equity. That has not happened. We have not had any directives from the Department of Ed, but RIDE is currently overseeing the management of Providence because of the takeover. So that could be the connection. But we have not made any decisions to eliminate books, to change the existing curriculum. We have not had any kind of training that resembles anything like what you described in Providence, nor do we have any plans to do that. So it just doesn't pertain to Exeter West Greenwich at all at this point.
Well, that's great.
Anytime-
That is very good news. And
Does
that's
anyone
all
else
I
have-
have.
Does anyone else have any questions or comments on this? Okay, great. Moving on, under new business, item F, policy 8901, maintaining confidentiality of student records, discussion review. Alan, go ahead.
Hi, this is also something because of South Kingston. And I just wanted to reassure our parents that we do have a good policy in place. We are protecting our children, but I thought that they should know that because of everything that's crazy stuff that's going on. And we do have good policies on this. And our disclosure of student directory information, number 7, I'm not going to bother reading the whole thing, but it seems like we are on top of this and our students are protected under our policies, just in case parents had questions on this.
Does anybody from the membership have any comments or questions on this matter? Okay, no. Okay, moving on, unfinished business. Item A, EWG School Committee bylaws, review, discussion, action. I'm going to defer this to the next meeting of the EWG School Committee. I asked for this to be put on, and I'm, again, deferring it on to the next meeting. Item B, Charter Review Committee update. Jim?
So I don't have any new updates. The letters were sent out to the individuals that were selected at the town council level, at the community level. Obviously, school committee selected an individual from each town as well. I will wait for some direction from the school committee about our next steps and when we want to schedule meetings. From the school committee members on that committee, that is.
Right. Jim, I'm sure I'm going to be asked because I'm in contact with some individuals. When do you think you might be looking at in terms of starting up the Charter Review Committee meeting? I mean, as we enter into summer, you know, it becomes more challenging because people have vacation schedules. So what are you thinking?
Well, it's a subcommittee of the school committee, so I will schedule it once I get some direction from the members that were selected from the school committee to be on it. So really, whatever you want, whatever member Monroe wants, I'll set it up. We can start anytime you'd like.
Can we get a feel from the members on their availability this summer?
You want me to poll them? Is that what you're asking?
I'm throwing it out there as an idea.
Yeah, I could do that.
All right, I think that's a good suggestion. So if you could do that, Jim, that or whoever you feel is appropriate to handle that.
Yeah, we'll send something out tomorrow.
Does anyone, does any of the membership have any more questions or comments on Charter Review Committee update?
I have one more question.
Sure.
Not having done charter reviews before, Jim, do you remember, or Paul, you know, what is the process as far as, is it something that member McFadden and I should be taking the lead on to reach out to the other members, or is that typically something that you coordinate, Jim?
I take direction from the two of you. So I can send out the poll, I can help organize the meetings, I can get information together, I can be present at a meeting if you want me to be present. It's really up to you, and it's whether you want me involved or not.
Okay. All right. It would be great if we can start with the poll, and then
Okay.
member McFadden, maybe you and I can touch base and come up with a plan for how we want to handle.
Right, and I think the target date we should, if we could, is our target date of completion, and kind of work backwards, because I think that the output of the Charter Review Committee would, whatever that output is, has to be in good enough printable shape such that it can support the April referendum. That's where the results of the Charter Review Committee would be found. So that would be in April. Then you got to clock it back, for people to be able to print that information in there. It has to go to the review of the committee. So as part of this whole exercise, we need to come up with, it's like jumping ahead and come up with the end date and then plan accordingly, because it could very well be the case that other items for review may come before the Charter Commission. So you never can tell. So I think that may be part of our discussion that we may have with Jim, Ms. Monroe.
Member Pandey wishes to be recognized.
Go ahead, Claudine. Am I unmuted?
No, I had to unmute. I just wanted to mention our superintendent and director of administration are part of the charter review subcommittee. Jim had mentioned if it is the will of the two people from the school committee that want him to be present. I think that's what you said, Jim. So it's actually at the will of the full school committee. And we had said that the superintendent and the director of administration are on the subcommittee. So Jim and Bob should plan to be at the meetings. They're critical to the discussion. Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments regarding the Charter Review Committee?
If I could just interject. So I'm kind of sensing that Member Monroe is looking for, typically when a subcommittee or a committee meets, there's kind of like I've been where it's a formal charge of the committee, or some it's looser, and I'm just trying to get a sense just for to anticipate the work that we'll have to put together, because generally the information requested is going to come up from central office. So I'm just trying to, if someone could remind me, like, is this a wide open full charter review, or are we looking at specific areas? Because if there's specific areas, then I can absolutely look for those bits of information just in the course of my business day. Or is it going to be like, let's just wait until the first meeting and we decide we're going to look at whatever? Because we spent, just for as a point of reference, the last one was spent looking at going to 50-50 for the cost of the district for enrollment. That activity was a lot of churning of data internally, but also was outreach to the Office of the Auditor General, looking for direction from them in email, telephone conversation, and then, supporting data. So I just, without belaboring it, is it wide open, or is there something specific? Or to be
I would
determined?
think I can't speak for a committee that hasn't adjourned yet, but I would not want to limit the committee to anything at this point, because there may be some bearing issues. I do know that the one issue that is before the committee without any question is the method in which the two towns are billed. And there is no question that is before the committee. And we had suggested, and it's not a bearing comment, that is, they're not bonded to it, but we had suggested that it would be a function of an average over, say, N number of years. So I won't go into any details, but I think we had proposed, as part of the review of how we build the towns, a method. But I don't think, not speaking for the committee, right, because I would be out of turn, the committee hasn't actually, like I said, it hasn't even met once. I wouldn't want to speak for the committee and the limits of the committee. So,
Member Allen and Member Pandey wish to be recognized.
Member Allen.
Yes, I thought we started this whole thing because we were talking about a 5-year kind of plan where we would average out the money owed by the towns, so that it would be less of an impact if there was a big swing in the students from one town to another. I thought that was basically what we were starting with for this.
Oh, if I may respond to that, I would agree with you, Diane, completely. That we wanted a better method to build both towns, if I recall the conversation the school committee had, and that that was one of the proposals, which was the average over 5 years. Do you have anything else you'd like to comment on that, Diane?
Nope, that was it.
Okay, the chair recognizes Member Pandy.
Yep. So the school committee set the charter review subcommittee up. I'm in agreement that it was set up to look at the distribution method for the two towns. If there are other items that the charter review committee finds, the charter review committee is made up of community members, school committee members, town council members, and our administrators. So since it's quite a process to amend the charter, I would say if other items are found by this committee, they are recommendations that come to the school committee, and it's a school committee that votes on moving the items forward to all-day referendum. So that would be my, I guess, will of the subcommittee.
Does anyone at this time have any additional questions or comments for the committee on this matter? All right, hearing none, let's moving on to the 2021-2022 budget discussion. Jim or Bob?
I don't have any updates, Bob. I don't know if you have anything.
No, we're holding steady. I don't see any movement right yet.
I saw that in one of my email correspondences that we got the final state, although I don't think it's been voted on yet because it isn't June 30th. I believe I saw the amount that we're given by the state for group home funding, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It was like $5.3 million. If you guys have seen that figure, is that what we had planned to receive from the state?
So I saw the same email that you saw. The only figure that they shared with us is the state aid, the traditional state aid, and the group home aid, but it's the categorical aid that they have not shared with us, and that's where we have the potential for the greatest flexibility. So those numbers haven't come out yet. That's why I didn't report on anything related to that. The numbers that we saw are comparable to what we planned for. It's the categorical that I'm waiting on.
Have we heard any additional information on the COVID funded? You had approximated a number for the COVID for next fiscal year. I thought you'd quoted something about $1 million, Jim. Is that what we're still looking at? Have you heard any more information on that, the COVID money?
So that's actually the next agenda item. I'm prepared to talk about it.
Oh, okay. So, okay, then what I'll do at this point is I'll turn it over to the committee. Does anybody else have any questions or comments for Jim or Bob on the 2021-2022 budget? All right, hearing none, I'll move on to the item D on our under unfinished business. Go ahead, Jim.
Okay, thanks. So the 1.1 or so million dollars that you're referencing is the ESSER 3 pot of money that was passed by the Biden stimulus that has not been released to us at this point. The application for us to apply for those funds has not been released to us. The number hasn't changed, but we don't have any access to those funds at this point. The last stimulus that was passed under Trump is the ESSER 2 grant. That amount is $516,792. And there were some restrictions on how that money could be used. We have applied for those funds, and we have applied consistent with the parameters that were shared with us. And tonight I can share with you what we planned for, consistent with the guidelines that were provided to us by the Department of Ed. So of the 516,000, we were required to spend a minimum of 25% on summer activities, which we've done. I think I've reported multiple times the activities that we have going on, but we have the week to 2 week long internship camps at the high school. We have the project-based learning Olympic themed activities happening at the junior high school, Camp Invention for kinder through grade 5. And then we also have individual tutoring for students that have been identified as having a need for ongoing support over the summer. We have about 50 groups of kids. The groups could be 1 student, 2 students, or 3 students. They have all been assigned to certified teachers from our district and a couple of subs as well. All of that is being paid for out of the stimulus. The transportation is being provided. For us, there's no cost to any families in the district for those activities. Again, this was a requirement of RIDE when we got the guidelines for applying for this grant. So all of the summer activities are in this grant. In addition, we moved the expenses that we previously had in the budget, and this was through the 21-22 budget development process. We were asked to remove high quality curriculum materials from the operating budget because it turned out to be an allowable expense under ESSER. So at the request of the committee, we did remove them from the operating budget and place them into the ESSER grant. That was about $65,000 worth of curriculum materials. And we also have some positions that are in this grant. The first one is the additional psychologist to address social emotional needs. That was something that we funded this current school year using the previous ESSER grant. I had that position in the budget for next year. And then through the development process and reporting to the school committee, we indicated that we would pull that out because it was an allowable expense under this grant. So we did put that in there. We also did some scheduling adjustment at the junior high school. We have some needs there in terms of kids who have been disengaged, not participating in school, chronically absent, kids that didn't select to come for in-person. We just have a number of concerns with kids there. We have increased the amount of time that kids will have access to math instruction and ELA instruction at the junior high school. That does require some additional staff in ELA in particular. In math, we were able to reorganize existing staff, but in ELA, we needed some additional staff. And we also released the reading teacher. The reading teacher was half-time reading and half-time ELA. We released her from all of her ELA responsibilities so she could be 100% available to support kids with their reading needs at the junior high school. The result is that we have a need, in order to make that schedule work, we have the need for 1 additional ELA teacher, which is funded through the grant. And it allows for additional reading support, increased time in math, increased time in ELA at the junior high school to address a significant need. And then the last position that we budgeted for is to address math at the elementary school, particularly Metcalf. The national data that came out suggested that the greatest learning loss that kids experienced in elementary school was in math at the earlier grades in math, grades 2, 3, 4. We've looked at our local data and it matched the national trend. So we have kids that did not get to the level that we would have anticipated they would get to as a result of the disruption over the last 15 months. But we also looked at the data and determined that there were a couple of classrooms where the teachers have had tremendous success with their students. We have one classroom in particular where 93% of the children met the end of year target, grade level target in one of those grades that has that nationally experienced the greatest amount of loss. And so that teacher is using the new resources and materials that we've provided, and she's been sought after by the company that provides for us the materials, iReady. We have released her from her classroom, and she will serve as a job embedded support across grade levels for students and teachers, so that she can support instruction, the selection of curriculum materials, and the intervention needs of students, so that we can get all kids to a level of proficiency and not just have islands of excellence in the school. We really want to spread it to across the entire building. So that is a real strong investment that that we're able to make, and it addresses the greatest area of need as we saw in the data, and as matches the national data that was presented to us by RIDE when they gave us the recommendations for how we should spend our money. That covers it. So 3 positions, high quality curriculum material, and a good amount of money for some real options for kids over the summer, both enrichment and academic supports.
That's great.
Does anybody have any questions or comments for Jim? Jim, I have a question. On the ESSER2 COVID funding for 21-22, did you say that's an application, or is it just an automatic funding level, and then we have to fit the spend for the activity?
So it's both. We have a guaranteed amount of money, which that's the amount I read to you, $516,792 is our guaranteed amount. But we have to apply for that money through the federal grant process that ultimately goes through a review stage at RIDE, and they have to give their stamp of approval. In other words, they have to make sure that what we've applied for matches the parameters of allowable expenditures. And that's what I was referencing. Like they're going to check to make sure that 25% is designated for high quality summer programming. They're going to make sure that at least 50% is designated for acceleration, meaning, how are you going to put things in place that will accelerate learning for kids? So that's when I talked about the math position at Metcalf, the changing of the schedule at the junior high school, increasing reading support, added time for math and ELA. All of those things qualify as acceleration. And then some money to address social emotional, which, we hired a really great additional clinician last year, and she gets to stay with us as a result of us applying for her position again to extend into next school year. So we met all of the parameters, the guidelines that were given to us, but we have to apply for it, and then RIDE reviews to make sure that they're all allowable expenses, and then we get the stamp of approval to access the money. It's very similar to how we have to apply for Title I, Title II, Title III, and all the special education money that we get on an annual basis.
Sure, great.
Member Allen and Member Monroe wish to be recognized.
Member Monroe.
Jim, this is amazing. I really appreciate you sharing all of the work that and leadership decisions that you've made here. I just had one clarifying question. Sure. The teacher that had those phenomenal results and that you're pulling to support the school, do you mind clarifying which grade level or grade levels they will be providing that support at?
So the focus is going to be the earlier grade levels, 2, 3, 4, and into 5. But we've always had a math interventionist at Metcalf already, but she's also like the RTI MTSS coordinator. So she has a lot of additional roles. That's Mrs. Kilday. I think everybody knows who she is. However, this is a 2 through 6 position, and she'll work closely with Mrs. Kilday, and they'll be able to really intensify the supports to all teachers across grade levels, but the way that it's going to work out is that Mrs. Kildare will have the older grades, and Mrs. Barber is the person who has been awarded the position. She'll work more closely with the younger grades, but they will overlap and they will adjust their schedules according to the needs. And this isn't just working directly with kids. This is about supporting lesson development, the selection of resources, the identification of high quality interventions, progress monitoring to make sure that kids are making appropriate gains, and really just kind of sharing the expertise across the whole school so that we see those kinds of gains systematically as opposed to in isolated areas. That's what the goal is.
And Mrs. Barber, was she the distance learning teacher for
She
third
was.
grade this year?
Yep.
So she got those results at a distance. That's
That is
amazing.
correct. It's absolutely amazing.
Wow. Congratulations to her. Thank you. That's all for me. Thank you. This is exciting though. Appreciate it.
Member Allen?
I just wanted to thank you, Jim. This sounds absolutely great. I was very concerned about Metcalf, and this looks like this is going to turn Metcalf right around.
Yeah, there's a lot that we've done over the past several years, but I think this is the icing on the cake, particularly in the area of math. I think it's something that has the potential to really turn things around in a quicker way than what we originally anticipated. But that's why it's so important that we were strategic about how we use these funds. We didn't want to spend them on things that just go away, but how do we spend these on activities that have lasting impact? And if we can support lesson development, intervention work, instruction, that stays with us forever, right? For as long as those teachers are here. So that's what we're trying to do, is really ramp that up so that we can see impact over the long term and not just during a short period of time when the money is available.
All set out, Diane?
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the membership?
Mr. McFadden, I am told that we should be expecting the application for the Biden stimulus in August, and that money really can be spent over the next couple of years. I'm not saying that we won't spend any of it for next school year. We may, but we'll be looking at how do we, for example, extend the work that we are doing with this current application. How do we extend that into the next year and perhaps the year after? We look at the results, what's the impact, and if these things are really working, then how do we use those, the follow-up stimulus money to allow us to maintain that level of support for a longer period of time, which then would hopefully impact the long term, at a greater rate. That's our hope.
All right, so you actually read my mind, answered my question that the application for the Biden money would be in August, and you guys got a handle on that. So
yes,
that works for me. That's good news. Is there any other questions and or comments? All right. Unfinished business, item E, 2021 reentry planning update. Jim or Bob, do you have anything to add on this matter?
I think that this could probably come off, given that tomorrow is the last day of school. So we are good. We are closing tomorrow, and we'll start working on the 21-22 reentry plan, which is going to be a requirement. In fact, we have to submit a reentry plan. It seems crazy to say that because we've been in school all year, but a going back to school plan for 21-22 has to be included with the application for the Biden money. So that is a requirement. I'm told that the reentry plan is much less significant than it was last year. In fact, a lot of the things that we did last year can just be copied and pasted over. But it's a federal application, and there are many, many states across the United States that never went back to school. So, it seems crazy that we have to do it again, but that's the rule. So we'll start our work. Well, not that we haven't already, but we'll continue our work with the reentry for 21-22, but no new updates for this year. School ends tomorrow.
Does the membership have any questions or comments on this matter? All right. Hearing none. On to item F, capital project update bond discussion. Bob or Jim on this matter?
That's Bob. Bob.
Yep, I can go. So on the capital project, there is a meeting tomorrow night, building committee meeting tomorrow night. There's been activity in the background, just getting the ATC is the HVAC. They have the contract. They are contracting with all subcontractors to do, for instance, we had a meeting today. There's going to be carpentry work for the ceilings. There's electrical work. There's plumbing work. And then there's the HVAC work and the riggers that will end up putting the equipment on the rooftop. So those folks, all those trades met today. Steve Bailey was the point person for the district on that. And he handled most of the call. A lot of it is going to have to do with logistics, but that is, where are we going to store materials that come onto the property, and how are the trades going to move through the building, because practically every classroom gets touched because there's heating and ventilation in every classroom. So that was the crux of the discussion today. But more, while that is important, the bigger issue came down to that we weren't, I always ask the question about it, and not just me, the royal I or the royal we, always about power, because of what no electricity means to us. And what came out of the meeting today is that there will be pretty consistent intermittent disruptions as they go through the building. So I need to meet with the superintendent and with Mr. Bailey again tomorrow and consider the activities that are going on at the high school, both for students and for our staff. Because there's two things when we lose power: we lose water and we lose fire alarm. And we know that we're going to have to comply with both of those issues because they're health and safety issues. So we need to have that discussion. So that's pretty significant, but definitely something that I know is going to happen. I just done these enough, so I know it's going to come, and we'll work through that. They're actually going to start work on Monday. So that is Monday, the 28th. They will be on campus, and they are going to start creating the access, which will be demoing ceilings, and there's hard ceilings and tiles. So they'll be removing grid and tiles to get up to access the equipment. They'll be demoing with the hard ceilings that will involve saws and etc. And then they'll also be up on the roofs, beginning to look at the disassembly and removal of the rooftop units. So there's a pretty significant amount. I'll back up. It dovetails into the power discussion. For all of our buildings, not just the junior, senior high school. So just think about it. All of the electrical that we've added as to do our business over the years. So what does that mean to us? It means that almost in every building, our electrical panels are maxed out, meaning if you've got to run another line, you've got to put in another panel. And that is one of the, it was on the design, it was part of the bid. So that's not the issue, but the issue is that they're going to take down one of the central panels in the in the high school to put in a brand new panel. So that's going to be a big part of that electrical, outages. So that the electrical team will be there too, and the plumbing. So we start full on Monday. Of course, there'll be a little break around the 4th of July weekend, and then they'll be back at it. So that's the capital project. The bond discussion, we're actually, Tish, the treasurer, and I, we're meeting with Moody's tomorrow via telephone conference. So Moody's is a rating agency, so the district will be rated. And what does that mean to the folks on this call? It means that we're expecting either a AA+ or a AAA+. And what that allows is when they bring when they go to the street to sell our bonds, we get, they move quicker, we get good investors in there, and they make the bonds desirable. We were rated years ago when we went through the refund process back in 2016. We were grouped together with a whole bunch of other districts. That was through Rybeck when they did the refund of all those bonds, and we lost our standalone rating. So, which isn't bad. It didn't hurt us at all. But now, having a standalone rating will definitely help us, and it's good news for the school committee. So we go through that tomorrow. That's like a 14-question, hour-long discussion with Moody's, and then they'll issue a rating for the district. And then we're still on track. I know for you folks who are, to your colleagues on the town side, Danielle and Maria, the treasurers for West Greenwich and Exeter, they've had a hand in this along with the town managers, just because our standalone rating requires the town financial information. And so as much as I am loath to drop a request for information on the treasurer's desks, we did it, and they're responding as judiciously as they can to get us that information. So I appreciate their efforts. So if you see them, give them our thanks. That's pretty much it.
Questions or comments from the membership, please?
Mr. McFadden, before you move on to the next item, I noticed that our new art teacher at Metcalf is still on the call, Daniela Coucher, and she was appointed this evening during the executive session. We typically do a welcome, and I forgot to announce her, but she's on the call, and I just wanted to welcome her to our district. It's official. It's been official for a little bit now, Daniela. I apologize for the delay.
Welcome, Daniela. Congratulations.
Welcome. We're happy to have you.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Thanks for
Very good.
joining in. Thanks for staying on with us. Sorry to interrupt. Okay.
Sure. If nobody has any questions or comments, I have a few questions for you, Bob, on and Jim. So the summer school impact, we are entertaining summer school, and the impact, are we taking into consideration classrooms, construction, and then summer school?
Yes.
Okay.
So we have we had a plan for conducting the junior, senior high school activities on campus. We have a plan for conducting them off campus, meaning at a different location in the district. As of my conversation with Mr. Bailey after his meeting today, we are going to move to Plan B and not have kids on campus on the junior, senior high school campus because they're starting their work right away. But we do have a plan for that, and it will be in good shape for both the special education ESY program and then the enrichment program that I talked about through the ESSER grant.
Sure. Great.
Member Allen wishes to be recognized.
Who is it?
Member Allen.
Oh,
Go ahead,
okay.
Go ahead, Diane.
I hit it by mistake, actually. Oops, got to get rid of it. You can take me off.
Okay. So as far as the placement of material equipment relative to the recreational facility, since the summer school staff is not going to be at the high school, junior high, is that going to interfere with, say, the citizens of the town from using or early start of football practice or anything like that? Are you using any of the fields to stage your equipment or the parking lots? Bob?
The short answer is we will not be using any of the fields. We're trying to locate everything so that, like, for instance, there's a tennis camp that runs that benefits the community members because it's an outlet for the students, and the parents know the kids are there. So I've told them to go forward as if that's going to proceed. As far as the interscholastic, the student athletes, they should not be impacted. It will require maybe some change of the access roads, kind of in and out in one direction, but we'll manage that. We'll manage the traffic. And the only time I could see for the full school committee body would be when they have the cranes here and they're rigging and lifting, hundreds of pounds and thousands of pounds in the air. We probably don't want to have people around.
Sure. And that question came up in the last meeting, and the cranes, and you said that some of this work, the HVAC work, might go until the end of October. What is the status of those cranes and the heavy equipment while school's going on? Is that going to be there? Has that been addressed?
So the equipment should all be in place prior to the school opening. I'm just trying to see. They're going to do. They're going to have. Right now they're targeting 3 picks. So they'll have cranes on the site at 3 different times. The old stuff will come off in July. The smaller units and fans will go on in August. And then the heavier equipment will go on in September. And the preliminary discussion is, that if they need to do the pick on a weekend, they'll do that to be less disruptive. But that's all subject to change. That's just where the scheduling is now. So 3 picks. Cranes would be on the campus at 3 different times, once in July, once in August, once in early September. But that could collapse down just depending on how quickly we get supplies in.
And
Sure.
I was part of that discussion. So we obviously are more concerned about the September date because kids are back in school. They are going to target a weekend, which they said is not an issue. And we were really clear in our questioning. It's typically a 1-day event, right? So if they schedule it on a Saturday, typically it starts in the morning and ends on the Saturday at some point later on in the afternoon or evening. If by chance they needed an extra day and they had to go into Monday, that is not our preference, but we always would have the option of moving that campus to distance learning for a day if they were not able to complete that process on the Saturday. But they said that under normal circumstances, it's a day-long and done activity. So I think we're going to be in good shape, but we also have a backup plan in case they run over on time.
Good. And you guys have probably thought of this, but the athletic programs that do occur in early September on Saturday, and I mean, is it too late or is it not early? Is it too early to plan to make sure that those activities are away activities and not home activities, like a football game or a soccer game?
Yeah, I actually don't think that we have athletic contests that start that early. I think we're still in the practice and tryout stage at that point.
Correct.
But we certainly can work with well, I'll have the athletic director organize this and just kind of switch out games. I know that's happened for other districts in the past as well, where, we may want our first 5 games to all be away, and then we'll have a lot of home games at the end. But that has been done to accommodate construction on other campuses in the state. It's not something that's that's never been done before. But I think we need to wait until we know 100% when that last pick is going to take place.
Correct.
Okay. I already asked the question, but I'll ask it once again. Does the membership have any questions or comments for Jim or Bob on this item? All right, hearing none. Next item is important dates and meetings. Tuesday, July 13th, school committee meeting. Tuesday, August 10th, school committee meeting. Tuesday, August 24th, if needed. Is it my understanding for anybody that might have a understanding of the Zoom meetings, whether or not we will be discontinuing Zoom meetings? That is, we'll have to start meeting in person in July. Has anybody heard anything more on that?
Member Panday wishes to be recognized, and I also have some information.
Member Pandy.
I actually was going to ask the same question to Andrew, our attorney, to see if he can update us on the status of the executive order.
Sure. So from my perspective, and I actually just looked at this today, the current executive order has not been extended, and I believe it expires. I don't have it in front of me, but it's the 25th or 26th of this month. So at least as it stands right now on paper, there has not been an extension. I know there was talk of one. I know there's been talk of some kind of a legislative change to allow that to continue. But as of right now, it would expire prior to your next meeting, based on what I know. But maybe Mr. Taylor has some additional insight.
I heard from another town that the governor is planning not to extend it, but we'll find out when he signs or does not sign one.
And at the risk of speculating, that may make sense, because I think it was yesterday or the day before, a number of other orders were extended into mid-July. This was not one of them. But we'll know more, obviously, within the next few days.
Does anybody have any questions or comments on this matter? All right, hearing none. I didn't put together the agenda. Do we have any executive session needs for this meeting, Jim?
We do not.
We do not. All right. Do we need to seal any executive session minutes? I think that's a question for anybody. It's on the agenda.
We seal them after each executive session. So all previous exec sessions have been sealed and we're not having a meeting tonight in executive session, so we have nothing.
All right. So that would also be also certain with disclosure of votes. In executive session, we have none. So at this time, I believe our meeting has concluded. I would ask someone to make a motion for adjournment.
I'll make that motion.
I need a second.
Second.
I'll call the vote. Member Pandy?
Aye.
Member Allen?
Aye.
Member Pasillo?
Aye.
Member Monroe?
Aye.
Member Griffiths?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. That brings to conclusion our meeting tonight. Thank you all and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.